Good evening. Every once in a while, some of my city friends say to me, well, the farmer is always bellyaching. And my reply invariably is that if you and I had as much to stomach as the farmer has, we'd do a bit of bellyaching ourselves. Because the farmer is the one person in our entire economy who has not been able to pass on to his customers the rising cost of living. With the rest of us, as our costs go up, we're able to pass some of that increased cost on to someone else. But the farmer, for the great bulk of the things he produces, must sell on the world market, and therefore he has no way of passing on his increasing costs. This is why farm organizations have been talking about a parity price. Now, a parity price simply means a price which has a fair relationship to the farmer's cost. As the costs go up, the price should go up. If the costs come down, then the price should come down. And tonight I want to talk not so much to the farmers who are perfectly familiar with this problem, as to some of my friends in the city and the towns, in order that they may understand what the farmer's problem is. And I want to begin by telling you that the farmer is not only not getting a parity price, he's not even getting a decent minimum standard of living. And to bring this forcibly to your attention, I have gathered some figures from the Dominion Bureau of Statistics. And I want you to imagine that we've taken all the farms in Saskatchewan and put them into a single business operation. And then we have prepared from the Dominion Bureau's figures the income of the Saskatchewan farm and the expenditures of the Saskatchewan farm. Let's look at them. Here's the Saskatchewan farm income for the year 1957. Here are gross sales, covering not only livestock, dairy and poultry products, but also wheat board payments, PFA payments. In essence, the total farm cash income that amounted to last year $538,900,000. Then we're going to charge the farmer for what he consumes on the farm. And so income in kind, that's the value of farm produce consumed on the farm, $47,100,000, making a total gross income last year of $586 million. Now I want you to look at the Saskatchewan farm expenditures for the same year. His total operating expenses, taking his taxes, rent, farm machinery, fertilizer, seed, etc., and you get $233,900,000. We take the depreciation expenses on his buildings and machinery, $70,900,000. Then we take interest on his total capital investment. His investment was estimated last year at $3 billion, and at 5% interest, this is $150 million. Then we take his labor costs. There are 103,000 farm operators in the province, and we'll pay them only what was the average amount paid last year to farm laborers. And that's $1,575 a year. This makes $162 million. Then we have changes of inventory. That is, whether the farmer has reduced the amount of grain he's carrying on the farm during the year, or whether he has increased it. And last year he reduced his inventory by $95 million. This makes a total farm expenditure in 1957 of $711,800,000. Now I want you to notice that all I have given the farmer for interest on his investment and wages for himself and his family are $3,000 a year. Now, the average family income in Canada last year was $5,160. So when I'm giving the farm family for interest and wages $3,000, you can see this is a very modest amount indeed. But having done that, then let us look at the balance sheet. Total expenditure, $711,800,000. Gross farm income, including, remember, charging the farmer for the food he consumed on his own farm, $586 million, leaving the farmer with a deficit of $125,800,000. In other words, last year, the Saskatchewan farmer would have needed $125 million just to break even. You know, every once in a while I hear of someone who says that because the farmer's in a cost price squeeze, maybe if the provincial government reduced this tax or that tax or gave the farmers a little more money, this would solve their problem. I want you to see that this gap of $125 million is greater than the entire provincial budget. If the Saskatchewan government closed all the schools and the hospitals, let all the people out of jail and out of the mental institutions, if we fired all the policemen and stopped paying old age pensions and mothers' allowances, and put our entire budget into making up this gap, we couldn't close the deficit between the farmer's expenditures and his income. This is why the farmers of this country have been asking for a parity price. And I'm afraid I have to say that this situation of 1957 is not likely to improve much in 1958. As a matter of fact, if anything, it's going to get worse, because there are additional costs being added. The 17% increase in freight rates, which has just been granted by the Border Transport Commissioner. It is estimated that of the $68 million of additional revenue which the railways will get, $55 million of this will come from the prairie provinces, and the great bulk of this will come from the prairie farmers. Then there's the increase in the tariffs on British woolens and on Japanese textiles, and the anti-dumping legislation which has been passed. And all of this is going to have an effect upon those overseas customers who buy the Saskatchewan and prairie farmers' wheat. And so I don't think that this situation is likely to improve. May I put it in a nutshell? Here's the position of the Saskatchewan farmer. Since 1947, his costs of operation have gone up 50%. But the price of a bushel of wheat has come down 20%. The price which he gets for a bushel of barley has come down 27%, and the price which he gets for a bushel of oats has come down 36%. As a matter of fact, only once in our history, and that was 1932, has the purchasing power of a bushel of wheat been less than it is today. If we go on the basis of a 1935 to 1939 dollar, the purchasing power of a bushel of wheat today is 51 cents. In 1946, one small carload of wheat with 1,845 bushels in it would buy a small combine. Today it would take 2 1/4 carloads with 3,963 bushels of wheat to buy the same small combine. Now, this is the kind of squeeze in which the farmers of Saskatchewan find themselves. And I want to emphasize that it's not their fault. They have produced efficiently, as is shown by the great surpluses there are. They have produced a high quality of wheat, and our wheat is in demand in every part of the world. But the Saskatchewan farmer is caught by two things. One, he's producing and competing on the world market against farmers of other countries, and in those countries, those farmers are helped by their governments, who give them deficiency payments, who give them guaranteed parity prices, who dispose of their wheat by means of barter and by taking the currency of other countries and by making long-term loans. Also, the Saskatchewan farmer is caught in this squeeze because he's producing inside a protected economy, but he is trying to sell out on the world market in an open economy where he gets no protection whatsoever. Now, I run into a great many people who tell me that we can't afford to give the farmer a parity price. We can't afford to give the farmers deficiency payments. Yet I want you to notice that we subsidize the gold mining industry every year to the tune of $40 million annually. That the Canadian government put millions of dollars into building a gas pipeline through northern Ontario so as to take gas to the people of central Canada, that we pay an annual subsidy on coal going down to Ontario and Quebec so they can get cheap fuel, that we give the railways an annual subsidy to haul freight through the unproductive part of northern Ontario. And the Gordon Commission has just recently reported and said that the tariff structure of Canada is costing you and me, the consumers of this country, $1,075,000,000 a year. This is what we are paying to enable industry in Canada to compete with industries in other countries. And I maintain that if we can pay over $1 billion a year to protect industry, then we ought to be able to make some payment to fill the deficiency between the farmer's rising costs and his steadily dropping income. Now, it shouldn't be necessary to put up a great deal of argument about the need for parity pricing, particularly when we have in Canada today a government whose prime minister has been one of the most eloquent advocates of a parity price. You remember that when Mr. Diefenbaker was in the opposition, he frequently made speeches on the need for a parity price. And I was just looking one up the other day, and I noticed here that it was made on March the 12th, 1956. And this is the resolution which Mr. Diefenbaker, now the Prime Minister of Canada, made in the House of Commons on that date. You can read it. He said, "In the opinion of this House, consideration should be given by the government to the advisability of introducing during the present session legislation to create a parity of prices for agricultural products at levels to ensure producers a fair cost-price relationship." Now, that's a very good resolution. That resolution, if implemented, would do exactly what the farmers have been asking. And in the course of presenting this resolution, Mr. Diefenbaker made a very eloquent speech. And he summed up his speech in these words, and you'll find it at page 202 of Hansard. He said, "It is parity that the farm organizations across this country are asking for today. Not charity, but parity." Well, I agree with Mr. Diefenbaker. But I submit that when we see the $1 per acre up to a maximum of 200 acres, that this means about 5 cents a bushel to the farmer on the wheat grown on that first 200 acres. And on the basis of all the wheat grown, it means about 3.5 cents per bushel. Now, the farmers' organizations have estimated that in order to give the farmer even 77% of parity, the farmer would have required 21 cent deficiency payment on the 55-56 crop and 30 cents of a payment on the 1956-57 crop. In the light of those figures, surely 3.5 cents a bushel as a token grant to the farmers of Saskatchewan smacks much more of charity than of parity. Thank you, and good night.